Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist and today doing a Dinomorphia P.U.N.K deck profile. So I'm really excited to do this for you guys because this deck was actually suggested to me by one of my patrons, Meli. And this deck is an extremely fun deck to play with just how well Dinomorphia and P.U.N.K work together because both archetypes pay life points to use their effects. Your Dinomorphia cards being able to control the board with trap cards and your P.U.N.K cards helping you synchro summon into awesome boss monsters like Psychic and Punisher, which with this deck is going to come out absolutely massive. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards. Like getting your name description in a single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month to your patron. And definitely give Meli some love down in the comments down below for suggesting such an awesome deck. So let's get straight on into this one guys. So first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Dinomorphia Therizia. Therizia is an amazing 3-of in the deck that has the ability of its normal or special summon. You can set a Dinomorphia trap directly from your deck to your spell and trap card zone, which is a great ability to get to the exact card that you want onto your side of the field so you can control the board. We then play 2 copies of Diplos. Diplos is really good to work with your copy of Therizia, which is why we play 2 copies of this card. It also has the ability, if this card is normal or special summon, you can send a Dinomorphia card from your deck to the graveyard, which is a great effect just to help you get the exact card you want into the graveyard. But I feel like 2 is totally fine in this deck. We then play 3 copies of Xiamen. Xiamen is definitely a 3-of in this deck. This card is one of the best summons in the entire build because it starts all of your plays with your P.U.N.K cards. Because you pay 600 life points to add any P.U.N.K monster you want from your deck to your hand, except another copy of this card, which is a great ability to search out cards like Foxy-tune, so you can go full combo with this build. We then play a single copy of Shirakusai. Shirakusai is amazing because this card helps you fusion summon during your turn or synchro summon during your opponent's turn, which is just super good. This card is amazing in the deck as a 1-of and helps you out a lot to go into a bunch of different plays, like a copy of Amazing Dragon during your opponent's turn or a copy of Rising Carp during your turn. We then play a single copy of Wagon. Wagon is really good to help us search out our field spell from our deck to our hand. We then play a single copy of Madam Spider. Madam Spider is really good as a 1-of in this build to help us search out our trap cards, which is just really good. We then play a single copy of Deer Note. Deer Note is not a card you want to see in your opening hand, but it's amazing in this deck as a 1-of, is it has the ability, if this card is sent from the field to the grave, you can target a P.U.N.K monster in your grave except a level 5 monster and special summon it, which is a great ability just to be able to use to bring back one of your P.U.N.K cards to your side of the field. This card is a definite 1-of in the build. We then play 3 copies of Foxy-tune. Foxy-tune is crazy powerful and is usually what you're searching off your copy of Xiamen, because this card has a really good ability. You can send this card and another card from your hand to the graveyard to special summon any P.U.N.K monster you want from your deck to your side of the field, except a level 8 P.U.N.K monster, which is super cool to be able to do to special summon out cards like Shirakusai or your copy of Deer Note, depending on the play that you want to go into. This card is amazing in this deck and it's just a really good 3-of. We then play a single copy of Ogre Dance. I feel like 1 is totally fine in this build, is this card has basically a searcher for the deck, which is super helpful, and it's a really good card overall, but I feel like 1 is totally fine. We then play a single copy of Wheelator. Wheelator is an awesome extender in the deck, because if you control a level 3 monster other than a copy of this card, you can special summon this card from your hand in defense position, plus it's a tuner monster, so it helps you go in for synchro plays. We then play a single copy of Tracker. Tracker is really good as well because this card is not a tuner, but it has the exact same effect as Wheelator, that if you control a level 3 monster other than a copy of Tracker, you can special summon this card from your hand, which is a great ability in this deck to get the exact card you want on your side of the field. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to start off with a single copy of P.U.N.K Jam Extreme Session. This card is basically like a Pot of Greed for the deck. This card is absolutely amazing, as it has the ability once per turn, you can banish 1 P.U.N.K card from your graveyard and then special summon a P.U.N.K monster from your hand. And if a Psychic monster you control pay life points to activate its effect, you can draw a card, and you can use that effect twice per turn, making this card essentially Pot of Greed. We then play a single copy of Called by the Grave. Called by the Grave is really good in this deck as a one-of, just to basically stop your opponent from hand-trapping you while you're going in for all of your plays. We then play 3 copies of E-Telly. E-Telly is super good in this deck as a 3-of, because this card helps you get your copy of Xiamen to your side of the field, it helps you get Shirakusai to your side of the field. Anything that you're missing that's a level 3 Psychic, this card gets it to your side of the field, which is amazing. The best target to be able to summon out is your copy of Xiamen if you don't have it already in your hand, but if you do have it in your hand, Shirakusai is probably the second best one to summon to your side of the field. This card is amazing in the deck as a 3-of and helps you go in for so many different plays. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps. So for the traps, we're going to start with a single copy of Dangerous Gaboo. This card is really good because this card is a searchable negate off your copy of Madam Spider, and it's just a really good one-of in the build. We then play a single copy of Dinomorphia Alert. Alert is really good in this deck as a one-of, but I only feel like you need a single copy of this card. It lets you pay half your life points. This special summon up to 2 Dinomorphia monsters from your graveyard whose total levels equal 8 or less. But you cannot special summon, or you cannot declare attacks with them this turn. Also, you cannot special summon monsters for the rest of the turn except Dinomorphia monsters, making this card just a good one-of in the deck if you're not going to go in for your punk plays during your opponent's turn with cards like Shirakusai. We then play a single copy of Dinomorphia Sonic. Dinomorphia Sonic is really good as a one-of in the build, is when your opponent activates a spell or trap card while you control a Dinomorphia monster, pay half your life points and negate the activation. If you do, destroy that card, then destroy a Dinomorphia monster that you control, which is a pretty good effect to be able to use with this card, but I feel like 1 is totally fine in this build. We then play 3 copies of Dinomorphia Domain. Domain is a definite 3-of in the deck, and this card is actually a fusion trap, which is crazy. This card is super powerful because during the main phase, you pay half your life points to fusion summon a Dinomorphia fusion monster from your extract using monsters from your hand, deck, or field as material, which is insane because you can use material from your deck to be able to fusion summon into really powerful cards like your copies of Kentragina, and it's just such an awesome card in this deck. And it's a definite 3-of in this build. We then play 3 copies of Dinomorphia Frenzy. This card is also a fusion trap, and this card is definitely a 3-of in the build because it's one of the most powerful cards in the entire deck because it helps you step into your copy of Rex turn, because during your opponent's main phase, pay half your life points to fusion summon a Dinomorphia fusion monster from your extract using 1 monster from your deck and 1 monster from your extract as fusion material, which is probably one of the most crazy fusion spells or fusion traps I've ever heard, because it lets you use a monster from your extract and your deck to be able to fusion summon into something really powerful like a copy of Rex turn. That's crazy. We then play 3 copies of Dinomorphia Intact. Intact is definitely a 3-of in the deck and is a really powerful card to guarantee your plays are going to go through. Because when a monster effect is activated, while you control a Dinomorphia card, pay half your life points to negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that monster. Also, whenever you take battle damage, this turn, the damage taken is halved, which is great to be able to use with this card. And during the damage calculation, while your life points are 2,000 or less, if you would take battle damage, you can banish this card from your graveyard and you take no battle damage from that battle, making it so that you don't get OTK'd, because you will sometimes pay down to like 1 life point with this build. We then play 2 copies of Ferret Flames. I did consider actually playing this card as a 2-of in the build, because it helps you just board wipe your opponent, and it's actually one of the craziest cards in this build, because if the combined attack of all face-up monsters that your opponent controls is higher than your life points, make your opponent shuffle monsters they control into the deck, their choice, so that the combined attack of the remaining monsters they control becomes less than or equal to your life points. When you have 1 life point, it means everything gets shuffled into the deck, which is why I almost played this card at 3 over the copy of Alert and dropped the copy of Alert. But I feel like 2 copies is totally fine, but you can, if you want to, drop the copy of Alert and play a 3rd copy of Ferret Flame. We then play 3 copies of Solemn Judgment. Solemn Judgment is amazing as a 3-of because this card basically just says no to anything, which is why we play this card as a 3-of in the build, and it's a definite 3-of in this deck. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, guys, we're going to start off with a single copy of Amazing Dragon. And this card really is amazing. It's a multiple bounce, which is amazing. And it also can bring back a P.U.N.K from the graveyard, which is really, really cool. We then play our main boss monster, Psychic and Punisher. Psychic and Punisher is insane. This card comes out absolutely massive. It ends games. You summon out this card when you want to finish a game, because once it hits the field with this deck, you're going to win. This card is absolutely insane. It's super easy to summon to your side of the field. It can spot remove cards off the field. It just is probably one of the best boss monsters ever created, and it's amazing in this deck because it's so easy to summon with cards like Rexturn being a level 8 and all of your different P.U.N.K monsters being level 3 that are tuners. It just makes it so easy to summon to your side of the field, and I almost played 2 copies of it in the extra deck, but I was like, nah, that's enough. One's going to end the game. We then play a single copy of Virtual World QB. This card is just a good option because we can go into 9s in this deck. And this card says any card sent from the field to the grave is banished instead, which is a pretty good effect to be able to do against certain decks. We then play a single copy of Jam Dragon Drive. Jam Dragon Drive is really good as a stepping stone in this deck to help you go in for more plays. But it has the ability that if this card is special summoned by the effect of a P.U.N.K card or a synchro summon, you pay 600 life points to take a level 3 psychic monster from your deck and either add it to your hand or send it to the graveyard, which is a really cool ability to be able to use this card to be able to search out our copies of Psychic Tracker or Wielder, depending on the exact one that you want to be able to go in for plays with, which is why I play this card in the deck as a one-of. We then play a single copy of Psyframe Lord Omega. Omega is a pretty good option in the deck, just in case you need to rip a card out of the opponent's hand. It does come up every so often, but it's a really good card overall. We then play a single copy of Stardust Charge Warrior. Sometimes you will put 2 level 3s on your side of the field, and this card helps out because you do get to draw a card, which is going to basically just get you a trap or something like that to help you just keep going and keep playing. We then play a single copy of Rising Carp. Rising Carp is really good in this deck because when this card is on your side of the field, you contribute it and then special summon 2 P.U.N.K monsters from your deck, which is super cool to be able to summon out something like a copy of a Madam Spider and a copy of Deer Note to your side of the field, so you can make a copy of Jam Dragon Drive, search out your trap, or summon out a copy of Wagon to search the field spell, which is just really good so you can get a Pot of Greed. It just depends on the situation, and they're really good in this deck, but you only need a single copy of this card, and you're only ever stepping into it with Shirakusai. We then play 3 copies of Rexturn. Rexturn is basically walking skill drain, which is why we play this card as a 3 of in the deck. It's very easy to summon to your side of the field, and it's just a really powerful card to be able to summon this deck because your opponent cannot activate the effects of monsters they control that have attack greater than or equal to your life points. That is insane. That it's basically a one-sided skill drain because we're going to be playing a lot of life points in this deck, and this card helps out a lot as well because it also has the ability at quick effect. You can pay half your life points and the attack of all monsters that your opponent currently controls become equal to your life points until the end of the turn, which is such a powerful effect. Sometimes we'll have 1 life point, so all of our opponent's monsters go to 1 attack point. We then play 3 copies of Kentragina. Kentragina is insane. It does come out at 4,000, but usually it doesn't stay at 4,000. It has the ability to lose its attack equal to your life points, and it also has the ability during your main phase quick effect, you can pay half your life points, banish a Dinomorphia normal trap from your graveyard, and it also has the ability that this card's effect becomes that trap effect when it was activated, which is a pretty cool ability with this card to be able to use with your copy of Frenzy or one of your other cards in the deck. We then play 2 copies of Stealth Bergia. I feel like 2 is totally fine in this deck. I've always felt like 2 Stealth Bergia was the perfect number for any Dinomorphia deck, and this card helps out a lot in this build because while your life points are 2,000 or less, you do not have to pay life points for the activation of your trap cards, of your Dinomorphias, or effects either, which is just really cool to be able to use with this card. I really like this card as a 2-of in the build, and it does help out a lot in this deck, which is why I play it at 2. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you enjoyed. This deck is super fun to be able to play. If you guys have never played Dinomorphia P.U.N.K before, you should definitely give this deck a try because it's super fun. It's very easy to be able to combo off and go into a copy of Psychic and Punisher, and basically that's your big boss monster you're trying to summon all the time to just end games. So that's going to do it for this one, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell near so you can become part of the notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.